Hi, good day everyone and welcome back to Abogada ng Bayan. Sasagutin natin kung ano yung mga questions nyo about floating status. Alam ko maraming mga challenges at this very moment that we are having this pandemic and marami na rin naapektuhang mga kababayan natin. So, tatalakayin natin kung ano yung difference ng 6 months indicated sa Labor Code and yung another 6 months extension na in-issue ng Dole last October. Ang floating status must not exceed 6 months. But, dun sa in-issue ng Dole, employers can now temporarily lay off workers for an entire year during a national emergency. Ito yung pandemic, in times of war. Nasa Article 301 ng Labor Code, nagsasabi dito na when the employment not being terminated, hindi na-terminate yung employer-employee relationship and meron pa rin security of tenure yung isang employee. So, ang sabi dito, the Bonafide suspension of the operation of a business or undertaking for a period not exceeding 6 months, or the fulfillment by the employee of a military or civic duty shall not terminate employment. Kapag ang isang company or ang employer, kinakailangan nitong mag-cease from the operation of a business, mag-recover from some financial losses, pinipigyan sila ng batas ng 6 months to do so. And during those times na nagre-recover sila from a bankruptcy or from financial losses, hindi na-terminate yung relationship nila dun sa kanilang employees. So, ang employees may be placed on a floating status na hindi lumalagpas sa 6 months. So, ito yung nararanasan natin ngayon. Pero ang tanong natin dito, pwede nga bang i-extend yung 6 months na nakasaad sa labor code natin? According to the implementing rules and regulations na in-issue ng Dole last October, dahil na rin sa nakita nila yung need for employers na i-extend yung time para makabawi sila sa mga nangyaring financial losses due to the pandemic, they issued a memorandum saying or stating that during declaration of war, pandemic, and similar national emergencies, the employer and the employees through the union, if any, or with the assistance of the Dole, shall meet in good faith for the purpose of extending the suspension of employment for a period not exceeding 6 months. So, ito ay isang extension dun sa original 6 months period. So, from 6 months and another 6 months, that would now be a total of 1 year. Valid nga ba ito? Or hindi ba questionable yung in-issue ng Dole na mai-extend yung original 6 months to another 6 months? Ang nangyari kasi dito, it seems like contravenes kung ano yung nasasabi sa Labor Code. And when you issue the implementing rules and regulations, ang basic rule natin sa batas, it should not contravene kung ano yung nasa batas mismo that you're trying to implement. Kung hindi pa kayo nakakapag-subscribe, please click the subscribe button. Don't forget to also share this to your friends and family members. Let's go, guys! So, unang-una, before placing an employee to a floating status, kinakailangan dito yung good faith coming from the employee. So we are placing employees into floating status because there is less work than there are employees. So yun yung presumption natin. Kapag nag-place yung employer ng kanyang employees into a floating status, but continuously naman yung hiring nito ng mga new employees, this would be bad faith on their end and may equal to constructive dismissal. And according sa isang case natin, it is the burden of the employer to prove that there are no posts available to which the employee which has been temporarily out of work can be assigned. Kapag may available posts naman na pwedeng mapuntahan yung employee but still nasa floating status siya, this would also be tantamount to bad faith on the part of the employer. Nabanggit natin kanina that there are 2 sets of 6 months allowed para mapunta sa floating status ang isang empleyado. So, una is based on the Labor Code na sinasabi na kapag temporarily nag-cease from operation yung isang company not exceeding 6 months, hindi na to terminate yung employer-employee relationship. But, according to Dole, kapag naman kinakailangan pang mag-extend ng another 6 months, allowed na ito. But since this seems to be contrary to the existing labor code, may mga prerequisites na inilatad ang Department of Labor and Employment para maging successful or para ma-extend yung floating status into another 6 months. Bakit nga ba kinakailangan ng fulfillment of said requisites? Kasi yung second set ng 6 months natin is no longer based dun sa sinakasaad sa labor code natin, but it is now within the arrangement ng employer and employee. Ito ay dapat may kontrata or may agreement or meeting of minds between the parties. So, kung hindi pumapayag yung isang employee to extend it to another 6 months, hindi siya pwedeng pilitin ng employer, and kapag hindi pa rin kaya ng employer na pabalikin yung empleyado sa kanyang trabaho, then kinakailangan na niyang magbayad ng separation pay. So, ano-ano nga ba yung mga requisites natin? Una, sabi dito, yung employer and affected employees must agree on the arrangement before anyone can be placed on extended floating status. It is now a contract between the employer and the employee, and dapat merong agreement na mangyayari. It's no longer based on the labor code na pwede silang i-place into 6 months floating status. Kapag kinakailangang mag-extend ng another 6 months, mangyayari lamang ito kapag merong agreement between the 2 parties. So, nakabase na ito sa contract between the employer and the employee. So, kung ano yung kontrata nyo, it is the binding law between the 2 parties. And there must be a notice to Dole at least 10 days bago ma-extend yung 6 months to another 6 months. Third, yung affected employees can look for alternative employment. So, during those extended 6 months, pag may nahanap yung employee na ibang trabaho, it will not sever yung relationship niya dun sa old employee. And kapag nag-resume na itong company niya or previous company, pwede pa rin siyang maging part nito. But, meron tayong exception dito. Kapag nag-tender na ng written or voluntary resignation si employee, then of course, hindi siya makakakuha ng separation pay, and at the same time, hindi na rin siya makakabalik dun sa employer kapag nag-resume na ito sa business. Pag naman na-retrench si employee before or after the expiration ng extension na to, she will still be entitled sa separation pay. So according sa labor code natin, ang separation pay will be half-month pay for every year of service. Kung meron naman tayong mga company policies or collective bargaining agreement which gives more than what the labor code provides, then yun yung maibibigay. So pag-compute ng separation pay, ini-include doon yung first 6 months na floating status yung employee. And syempre, yung Dole regional offices shall inspect and monitor the proper implementation of the extension of the floating status into another 6 months. Ulitin lang natin guys, doon sa first 6 months of floating status, it is provided by the labor code. And kapag kinakailangang i-extend into another 6 months to make it a total of 1 year, kinakailangang mag-agree muna yung employee sa terms and conditions ng employer. So magkakaroon sila ngayon ng agreement or contract between themselves. So kapag hindi nag-agree si employee na ma-extend yung kanyang contract at during that time hindi pa kayang mag-operate employer and hindi pa niya kayang pabalikin into work ang kanyang mga employees, then they will be entitled to the payment of separation pay. So guys, I hope I was able to explain and in the simplest manner kung ano nga ba itong floating status, because marami sa atin ngayon ang nangangailangan ng information na to. Marami sa mga kababayan natin ang na-placed into floating status, and I hope this could help. And please share this to your walls, to your social media accounts, and hoping that it would reach those people needing this information. Again, maraming salamat sa pagtangkilik, and please keep sharing guys. Thank you. Till next time.